Please keep our questions limited to less than a minute so that we can get as many of them answered as possible. And please, let's be respectful. I know that this is a very controversial topic and we might have strong opinions one way or the other. We're here to listen and get as much information as we can. So without much further ado, Ms. Westbrook.
Thank you for inviting me tonight. And what I'm going to try to do is, of course, give you some background because Washington State has never had charters. It's one of 9 states that doesn't have charters right now. First thing to know about charter schools is they are public schools. Many people get that confused. They think they're not. They are public schools. They are just allowed to have the freedom to not hire unionized labor and to have flexibility and autonomy in exchange for accountability and oversight. And usually that oversight comes from an authorizer that's looked at their charter and approved it. Charter schools, there's 5,000 of them in the United States. They represent about 5% of K-12 population. They are mostly urban. The urban ones are largely minority. The ones that are in the suburbs are largely white. They do serve, it's an interesting thing, the ones that are urban tend to be more heavily minority focused than the school that they came from. The NAACP has come out against charter schools because they believe they resegregate neighborhoods. But on the other hand, some of the highest performing charter schools like KIPP, which is a charter group that's throughout the country, do quite well with this population in terms of closing the achievement gap as opposed to the traditional schools. They do serve a higher proportion of minority students, but they tend to serve far fewer ELL, special ed, and homeless children. And I'm assuming that you all kind of know where the money comes, but I'll just briefly say, there's state money to educate your children, and there's an amount of money attached to every child. So no matter what public school your child goes to, that money follows along with them. If they are ELL or special ed, they have federal dollars attached to them as well. Those travel with them to any public school that they go to. So that's how charter schools get their money. And of course, just the reality is the money leaves one school and goes to another school. If you have 20, 30, 40 kids leave your school, you obviously would lose a teacher. And then obviously that amount of money doesn't just cover a teacher, it covers staffing for other jobs like librarian or counselor. So, the money gets moved around. Charters, the way they usually work is they're open to anybody, and if they're over-enrolled, they go to a lottery system. One interesting thing about charters is most of the charter laws, and let me just say, 41 states, 41 charter laws. It is a state issue. The feds only are there to make sure in terms of you have to follow all the health and safety rules, you have to follow all the special ed and ELL rules. But otherwise, the feds really have a hands-off approach. It's a state thing. It's like No Child Left Behind. We have 50 state tests. So we have 41 charter laws. But in general, a lot of the charter laws have, as indeed this bill has, is 10% of the seats would be set aside for children of charter board members, children of founders of the school, and children of staff, up to 10%. So outside of that, everybody else gets in who wants to get in, otherwise it will go to a lottery. On the efficacy of how charter schools do, the most spoken about study comes out of Stanford University. It's called the Credo study. It has mixed reviews. Basically, it says 17% of charters do well, do better than traditional schools. About 47% do about the same as their school, traditional school, and 33% do worse. Now that's in the first 2 years when a child moves out of traditional to a charter. They do slightly better after that. But from the point of view that we have that we all know, there's good public schools, there's bad public schools, there's a lot in between. That's very much the charter model as well. So just to go into There are 2 bills right now in our legislature, one in the House, one in the Senate. They are completely identical, so you don't have, and they're 45 pages long, so you don't have to go read both of them. Right now, both of them got stalled out in their committees. They were not passed out onto the floor, but like most things, it's not done until the gavel comes down. The sponsors of the bill want them to go forward, and so they're doing a little arm twisting in terms of the budget. They want, they'll give something over to the budget if these people will bring the charters to the floor of the House and the Senate so they can get a vote on it. Charters tend to be part of what some of you might know as ed reform. A lot of, even President Obama believes charters are good. There's also Teach for America, which is a group that trains recent college graduates for 6 weeks and puts them in classrooms. There's all these different things that people believe will make public education better, and charters are part of that. Because charters are a big deal, and some of them have for-profit companies in them, it's a larger than just our state thing. So I guess I'm trying to say, I would say there's lobbying coming in from out of state, because this is an ed reform idea. So just to let you know, this bill is actually sort of 3 bills in one. It's an interesting thing. I spoke to the Senate sponsor, Rodney Tom, and he said, well, we wanted to put everything into one ed reform package. So one part is called Transformation Zone Schools, which is where the state will identify low-performing schools that have been low-performing for a number of years, and they will take them over. All of the staff of the school is dismissed, and then what's called a learning management organization will come in, hire all new staff. The school will still be a Seattle Public School, and your children would still be assigned to it, but it's an effort to take control of a school that has not been doing well. And then it could go for, they go for about 3 years, and then the district can petition to have that school brought back into their fold. They can do between 10 and 20 schools a year. And of course, this would be state funded. The second part of the bill is something called the parent trigger, and this is something that started in California for parents who wanted some mechanism to change their low-performing school. In this particular bill, the parent trigger law can be used at any school. And what it means is that if a charter is approved, the charter could come to Arbor Heights with a petition, and if the majority of your parents or the majority of your teachers signed it and said yes, then that charter organization would take over your school. It's a pretty big deal, because suddenly, of course, for the district, a school goes offline, but for parents that are looking, or teachers that are looking for something, this is considered one way to try to affect change if people feel like change has not been happening in their school. And then, of course, the third part of this law is the charter bill itself. And it would authorize 10 charter schools per year over the next 5 years. So that would be 50 charter schools. It mandates that there will be 10 schools open per year, so you would have them open. It does provide a mechanism for charter operators who will serve educationally disadvantaged children to get a bump up if A, that's the population they're going to serve, B, they show a proven track record, and C, they have shown that they know how to work with that population or have been working with that population. They get to have the majority of charters. So if there's 10 charter proposals, 6 of them at least will go towards those charter groups that are trying to serve that population. And then one interesting thing is that it is extra money for us to do this in this state. The state will have to find between $10 and $15 million extra to run this entire bill. And they're all administrative costs that you wouldn't go in the classroom because charters have to be overseen. And so has to have the money, you have to give the money to the authorizers. The authorizers in the state could be school board, any four-year public university or community college, and then the bill sets up a commission, yet another commission. the Washington State Charter Commission, which would be 9